Greetings again. This is Masculine Militia. Thank you for joining me. Um, my name is Antonio Alacina, aka the Daywalker, and this is episode 8 of Masculine Militia. Thus far, we've covered some things, hopefully, that you've seen already in the former episode, or the prior episodes, I should say. And as time go on and as we go on, we will get better at presenting our thoughts, ideas, and everything that we believe and or know to you. We striving to do that, and it's not like I think that we're gonna hit it out of the park every time, but that's what I'm striving for, actually. I'm striving to hit it out of the park, as they call it. I'm striving for home runs. I'm striving for that which will be best for, and beneficial for our audience. And so that's going to take me being as good, as prepared, as knowledgeable as possible. And, sometimes that knowledge, it's going to be regardless of how long I'm able to be on a podcast or be on the air. Of course, I'm not going to be able to get everything in at that moment. So we go methodically forward. I like to get into episode 8, still talking about the myth of the alpha male hierarchy. Into talking about that, into going into that, I need to show, at least this is what I think I need to show, that if the alpha male hierarchy is a myth, or is, at least in a concept that is a construct that is incorrect in its application to human beings, and that concept, that construct has been applied to human beings, applied to our dynamics, our human social dynamics, to actually weaken the natural tendencies of the human being that will allow us to achieve balance. If you have male, female, and each of us have a purpose and a function, and if we are able to execute that function, in the execution of that function, we then could bring about balance with each other. And if we do it with each other, then we're able to bring it about in our society, in our communities. And there's an imbalance in our society. There's an imbalance among what we call men and women. There's an imbalance there, and that imbalance, to me, is a part of the system that is in itself the main construct. I don't really like calling the system a construct, because the system creates constructs. But the system of male dominance, I call it the male system. The male system is in of itself the beginning of all of the imbalances in our society. if there's an imbalance in justice, if there's an imbalance in equality, if there's an imbalance in freedom, if there's an imbalance in love, if there's an imbalance in how we treat each other, if there's an imbalance in how we interact with each other, if there's an imbalance in our communication with each other, if there's an imbalance, the male system is at the root of that imbalance. So what it has done is inside of that imbalance or those imbalances, there has to be something that is basically a control. There are different controls that have to be a part of the male system. And we don't see it that way, particularly since the male system was here before any of us who are on the planet today. We come into the world a part of this system, a part of these constructs, and we're given constructs, and then we actually create some of them, but it's still based on the male system, the system of male dominance. And so as we go forward in our lives, we notice that there may be some imbalances, but we try to balance them based on a system that is meant to continue the imbalance. And we attempt to use that to balance that which we know in our being is imbalanced. And whether we consciously see it that way or whether we consciously understand it that way, we know that there's something that's not right. We know that there are imbalances. We understand this. And so we look for that which will give us balance. And the system has in it a sort of placebo. Its greatest placebo is this thing that we know to be necessary, but the application of it to our issues is incorrect most times. And the reason we know it's incorrect is because we never find the balance that we're seeking by implementing it. And it's something that we know is a part of the universe. It's a part of our being and our movement and our thoughts. And it's a part of all of that. We attempt to apply it, but what ends up happening is we never really get the results in our application of it. We never get the results of balance. And so we don't seem to understand the difference between the two. And what I'm referring to is this great thing that we call equality. Many of us seek equality and not balance. The universe, the nature of things will tend towards seeking balance with each other, with itself rather, if it is left unimpeded. If nothing bothers us, if nothing impedes our movement, we will move towards balance. But we have gotten to the point where even the impediments that we have that clutter up our knowledge and understanding and even our movement towards balance, we have allowed it to become just a part of our everyday thinking, our everyday lives, and it's just here. It's like air. Instead of seeing it as an impediment, we see it as a part of a process that we believe at some point will lead us to get where we need to go, towards balance. And so we get so far into it that there are things that we desire even aside from balance, which, as I was saying, equality is a desirable thing. But it has been used as a placebo to us so that we will not seek balance, because what ends up happening is in equality, you can have polarities that compete. You can even have distractions that will be incorporated into the polarities of equality. But with balance, it pushes out the distractions because it's going to bring about harmony. And you can't have that when you have distractions. So everything in this world, everything that we look at, everything that we do, or the majority of those things, they're there so that we can be distracted from being what we should be in our journey to naturally move towards balance. It is not equality. And equality is a good thing. But equality in this universe, when it is purely allowed to develop, it is a step towards bringing about balance, but it is not the destination. And what has happened is we have been given equality as the destination. So we have different constructs, different controls, different things that keeps us in this search for balance, but we're not consciously thinking of balance. Most of us, a lot of us are, but most of us aren't. We just want to be happy. We want to be comfortable. Happiness is a construct, unlike joy. Joy is not a construct, but happiness is. So there's so many constructs that we've accepted, and it has become a part of who we are, so much so that it makes every other construct able to come into our lives and seem as if it belongs there. But like I said, this is a world that has been constructed long before any of us were here. But then we have institutions that carry out the thinking, the mind of these construct. My apologies. The constructs that we are brought into, every human being, everything that is born on the planet, talking about human beings, we are brought into this construct or constructs, but we're born in a system full of constructs. And our parents were born into that construct. Their parents were born into that construct or system, my apologies, and the constructs that the system develops or makes or creates. Our parents were born in it. Their parents were born in it. And what ends up happening is we move through time in a way that we understand time. We move through it where my great-grandfather was living in a different time with different rules and different things. However, we look at the movement of society almost as if it happens naturally. It's a construct. It's not moving naturally. It's engineered. And once we understand that it's engineered, once we know, understand, and not just that, accept and aware that it's engineered, then the way we think about it, the way we move in it, and what we will develop and create going forward can be very different. But because this system has to continue distractions, many of these distractions are constructs themselves. Gender is a construct. Yes, it is. But sex is not. The quote unquote biological sex of a person is not a construct. Every male has the Y chromosome. The Y chromosome is involved in the development of testosterone in the glands that in the receptors and all those things. It's involved in the creation of those things so that then those things, testosterone being one, the main thing, develops sex organs belonging to the male. The female has 2 X chromosomes, no Y. So that allows for her as a female to develop the structures in the body to bring about her sex organs, as well as other things that support those organs, other hormonal processes, as well as a male. But there's still some constructs, because when we are born, now there's a construct that says you are a boy. The boy now has constructs that he, as a boy, to be a boy, he has to follow under the male system. He has to follow certain constructs, and those constructs divide into different areas, different things, that different norms and do's and don'ts, and it's very little don'ts for boys. But the constructs for the boy means that he does this. So boys do this. Boys don't do that. Boys are this. Very few don'ts for boys, though. It's mostly boys do this and boys that. So the boy, that places that male in a construct, and the construct then builds other constructs that the boy is basically ordained into. So then he becomes a boy. The boy becomes a man. But you're not born a man. You're born a male. So the male is the natural. The male is the natural, like the female is the natural. The boy and the man, that's the construct. You're not born a boy. You're born a male. Then you're giving the designation of boy. Now, I understand that the designation is connected, the construct, not so much, but the designation of boy, the designation of man is connected to male. The constructs have to do what a boy is, what a boy does, how a boy acts, how a boy talks, how a man acts, what a man does. Those are constructs. And of course, we are very invested in these constructs. We're very invested in the constructs. So, as a construct, male, female, not constructs, but boy, girl, man, woman, constructs. So what ends up happening is those things that are naturally, or let's say the male has a natural tendency to do and be biologically, and how that biology imprints itself on the society. Biologically, boys, males, are generally, naturally stronger than females, physically. The male has a thicker skull, thicker and stronger bones. We're created for the environment. We're made and created for the environment to do the thing that brings about the physical universe, the physical society. We're made to withstand that. So anything in the physical realm, the male is designed to place it under his control. Physical control. We're designed to do that. We're designed to move in that way. And under the male system, having that kind of natural tendency without the balance of the female, it will be an extreme and overdoing of that tendency, of the imprint that males put on things in the society, in the environment. Because under the male system, balance is the enemy. Can't have balance in the male system because the male system has to be dominant. But the woman, the female, and the male are actually two halves of one. The male having attributes, purpose, and function to execute and accomplish certain things, as well as the female having attributes, purpose, and function to execute other things, and they are supposed to complement each other, which brings about balance. But under the male system, that's an enemy. Because in order for the male system to be the male system, it cannot have balance. No balance. Can't have balance. Balance is the enemy. Because to bring about balance, now you have to not have distractions. Now you can't invest in constructs. You can't do all of those things that keep the male system alive. Because at the center of the male system is the desire and the acquisition of power. Power. Not for the universe, not for nature, but for self. That's what's at the center of male system. So male, female attributes, function, purpose on both, they have to be disrupted and they have to remain separate. There cannot be any harmony in its execution. Or it can't be even brought together to be made that way. There has to be distractions as a matter of course. It is par. It is just, it becomes where it's natural now. Where we don't even see many of the things that are distractions and the constructs as anything unnatural. We don't even see it like that anymore. It's just a part of our lives. So the male system creates the constructs. So what has happened is, as that construct or constructs are challenged, then the rationale for the existence of not only the constructs, but then also those things which we discover about ourselves have to be explained. Those things have to be explained. The male has a tendency to have certain things, or he has a tendency towards certain things. Let's explain it. The male does this. It means that. And it has to tie in to the rationale, the overall rationale of the male system. It has to tie in. So even speaking of males now, even when it comes to masculinity, which is the innate attribute of a male, there has been this explanations that have been given concerning masculinity, but it has to be looked at as something constructed, socially constructed, because when a male has a tendency to do certain things, then that has to now be called masculine, and it belongs to the male because of his tendency to do certain things, to be certain things. It's masculine to have strength, to have courage, leadership, assertiveness. Those things are masculine. Manly. If you don't have those things, the weaker they are in you, the less masculine you are. So it starts to be a part of a social construct. The social construct is, if you are male, then you tend towards being this way. You tend towards having these things. So when you impose those things, or you apply those things, those attributes, those characteristics rather, when you apply those things, that now is given the term masculine. So in that way, it connects to the construct. It makes it a construct, rather. So if it is a construct, that means not only can males be masculine, but females can be masculine too. Because it's a social construct, because a female can do the same things. They can apply those same characteristics of leadership, of assertiveness, courage and strength, and, those things. Independence. They can apply these same things. They can do these same things. And since it is said that those characteristics are masculine, it's a construct. So now that construct can be transferred to a female also. So many of us actually believe that a woman has masculine energy, and that a man has feminine energy, because they're characteristics that have been looked at as feminine, and because a male can do them or may do them, then that construct can now be transferred to him. Instead of seeing masculinity as the natural tendency that comes from the male, a natural tendency, an innate tendency. If it's innate to the male, then it comes from some place that is not socially constructed. The system didn't create it. So there has to be a construct that makes it where a female can have it and a male can have what a female has in order to explain other constructs. So masculinity is looked at by many social scientists as being socially constructed. Like, since a male has a tendency towards this particular thing, then that particular thing is now called masculine. Those particular attributes, those particular characteristics is now called masculine construct. Instead of saying the male does this because he is masculine, or he has masculinity in him from birth, it is innate, and that's why he does certain things. But in order to continue the belief, really, and the operation of the imbalance in our lives with each other, male and female, there has to be something that explains when this man for example, when the male uses those characteristics in an imbalanced way. When he uses his strength to dominate, oppress, things of that nature. When he uses his strength to do that, there has to be an explanation. Are men naturally, males naturally oppressive? Not if you look at masculinity as innate, but then you look at the imbalance of the male system that takes control of it and feeds that male a doctrine that causes that male to develop in a particular manner consistent with his overall premise, with his overall root, which is power. Power. So the male has to be according to the male system, because the constructs have been placed in our lives before we were born. So we're born into it. And as we grow into it, we have what is basically a male privilege, as long as we subscribe unconsciously as a matter of just being in the society. The indoctrination, everything that we are taught, everything that we see is to subscribe us, to sign us up for this subscription called male system. And that happens, and as it happens, most of us, we don't think of it in any other way. In fact, what we do is we dive into it even deeper. You're born into male privilege. Who wants to give up privilege? I don't want to just not be a male because I love being a male. I do. I love being a male, of course. No, I don't want to be a woman or a female, not because of what a female has to withstand in the male system. I don't want to be a female because I love what it is to be a male loving a female. I love this side and how that everything about it. But the privilege of being a male, no one really wants to give that up. In fact, females, women today, are actually fighting for what they think is equality, but it's really for the privilege of being a male. The privileges that come with being male. I know. A lot of us not going to see it like that. But I'll get into that another time, because I'm telling you, it's not seen that way. Because the construct is very deep. It's a part of our processes. It's a part of how we move, how we operate. It's an operating system. So, as a male, the characteristics of what is supposed to be a man, boy, are termed masculine. Boy, man is the avatar of the male. Avatar. Did you see that movie? I only paid half attention to it, but the concept. You know, most today we understand Avatar a little bit more because they're trying to get. They actually I say they're trying to basically have us create avatars and basically put our brain, put our consciousness. And when I say consciousness, I don't mean some little thing. I mean we operate the avatar as we interact with each other and not interact with totally ourselves to someone else. They're trying to move us towards that. So what has happened is the boy, the man, the girl, the woman, they are the avatars of the male and the female. And there's a constructed world that has been created. And we are a part of it. And we figure, this is the way it is. There's nothing different about it. It's because we indoctrinated into it we were born into it. It's born in the world, shaped like it. So at the center, the root of the male system is power. And everything that happens in the constructs that are created by the male system have to continue the growth of that power. The male system, according to it, has to live. And the beneficiaries of that system, of course, are the males. Or the boys and men. Men. I mean, there's an intersectionality of race and all this kind of stuff, but that's something else. We can get into it another time. Because, of course, the black man is not the creator of this male system. He's not the operator of it. He's none of that. He's like this person that comes in that is allowed to have some of the rights and privileges, just not over the creators, just the people that other black people, for example. So that's something else. But we talk, when you're talking about masculinity, it has been socially constructed for us to believe that masculinity is a construct because of the characteristics that masculinity is supposed to carry, and it belongs to a designated avatar or gender. Man, boy. But I submit to you that masculinity is the natural energy produced by the male. The female does not produce masculinity. The male does not produce femininity. Under the constructs of socially constructed so-called masculinity, because it's not really masculinity, but this is what they call it, then many of us who don't know that we have that as our operating system would believe that a male has both feminine and masculine energies. It's not true. Or vice versa, female having masculine and feminine energy. No. And as I've said, the male and female are two halves of one. My feminine side is her. Her masculine side is me. But under the constructs of what has been called masculinity and femininity, under those constructs, the characteristics that are held by one or the other, male or female, and applied at any given point can make it seem as if we possess both as an individual. However, that's a part of the placebo of equality, because balance dictates that the function, attributes, and purpose of the female and the attributes, function, and purpose of the male are to complement each other and bring about balance. It's not that you got to have both, because if you have both, if a female has both masculine and feminine, and the male has masculine, there would be confusion. And that's what we have today. We have to have balance. 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 We don't have much balance. So, what does that have to do with the myth of the alpha male hierarchy? Because the alpha male hierarchy, the study that comes from the study of primates and wolves, now applied to humans. And we have accepted this application as if it's real. And we've built other constructs concerning it. That construct is to be another, either an outgrowth of what they call, or what is called, masculinity in the construct, in that construct. Because the alpha male, according to how we are taught and indoctrinated to see it today, and people are writing books and all kinds of stuff on this, it's like the alpha male is basically the man who has the greatest expression of masculinity or masculine traits. Because naturally, a woman, a female, wants naturally masculinity to feed her, just as the male needs femininity to feed him. We need those energies for each other, respectively. So the female has the same production in terms of she produces feminine energy. She produces that. That is hers. The male does not. Listen, what has happened is we look at the physical characteristics and some traits of a male. If they seem feminine, that's a construct, because we're still seeing that as a construct. The construct is undergirded by the male's emulation of what we know to be feminine. Doesn't mean he's producing feminine energy. It means he's emulating what it's like when a person who says they were born a male, but they feel like a female, or they know they're just not, it's just not right, and then they choose to start emulating the female, because that's what they're doing. Because how would they know how a female feels? They don't know. Oh, because they have estrogen? We have estrogen? So that makes us know what if... No. You don't have if your chromosomes have determined that you are a male, you don't know how it feels to be a female. You can empathize with them. Yes. You can empathize so deeply with a female that you then begin to want, desire to do and be as she is. That is a psychological dynamic. But you don't know how it feels, so you emulate what you believe and what you've seen. Like it is with the female. Who does that? She may try to emulate being a man, but she can never be one. I once got into a little small skirmish with a young lady. I'm here in Atlanta, and I'm going down the escalators, and it's a long time ago, at underground Atlanta. At the bottom of the escalator was a young lady, very attractive. It was high and by, as far as I was concerned, or nothing. But I'm very tall, so when I got down at the end of the escalator, she was looking at me as I was coming down, and she was like, "Man, you tall. How tall are you?" She asked me, and I was like, I told her. And she was like, "Wow, you know what I'm saying? You play basketball?" You know, the whole thing. And I was like, I told her. But right during that moment, this woman comes out of, it was bathrooms down there, and she had this energy like, and so I was like, okay. And then she was, and then as I was about to walk off, she was like, yeah, you need to keep going. I'm like, really? I need to keep, and I said, because at the time I was much younger than I am now, and even though I could have just been like, yeah, I was like, what? She was like, just go on about your business, bro. I said, shout it. If you act like a man, I'm gonna treat you like one. So I don't like dudes talk to me like that. And then the words that came out of her mouth it baffled me, and it baffles me today. But she said, yeah, y'all need to be jealous. And I was like, jealous? So I turned around and said, jealous? I said, let me tell you something. There is no way you would ever even know how the pea feels. I didn't say pea. I said, there's no way you would ever know how the cat feels. You don't have the tools. You don't have the tools to feel it. You need certain tools. I didn't go into that part, but I'm saying that now. You need certain tools to feel it. So no matter what you're doing, you can only emulate. You can't feel it. You can put something in your mind to emulate a feeling that you will never, ever, 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 ever be able to get. Not even technology will be able to bring that about. It can approximate it maybe at one point, but you got to have the tools. So you can emulate being so-called masculine, because there are different forms of what they call it, a form of masculinity. But to me, these other so-called forms of masculinity are not masculinity at all. Machismo is looked at as a form of masculinity. Machismo, which basically is said to emphasize power, and is also associated with disregard for consequences and responsibility. I didn't even know virility until recently was actually a form of masculinity. I thought virility means that you had the sexual ability to produce. But they said that, they say, I was reading and it says, it's similar to masculinity, but especially emphasizes strength, energy, and sex drive. I knew it had something to do with sex, but they said virility is actually a form of masculinity. Not a characteristic of it is like what I was thinking, but a form of masculinity. So masculinity is the natural tendency, the innate deposit and composite of a male. Femininity is the natural, innate, and composite of a female. Yet, it's been said to be socially constructed, and I've gone through how that supposedly happened, has supposed to have happened. The alpha male hierarchy is a construct also. It's more of a distraction to who we should be, because if we connect to who we should be and be that, then the balance will come about. A masculine man, a truly innate, natural masculine man, desires balance with the female, not dominance, not trickery. A masculine man will naturally rely on his ability to produce that energy and bring and connect and attract that woman, that female rather, any female. It's something that you will naturally do. And the female will be naturally attracted to it. But now she has to know that being feminine is, I think, is more of a power that she has. But if she disconnects from it, she then will be complicit in the imbalance herself. Masculine, feminine should balance. But if masculinity is not what we are tending to, that we're desiring to connect to, the natural, innate tendency of masculinity, that energy, we should be trying to connect to it as men, as males. And that pushes us. The greater the degree of masculinity, the stronger the masculinity, the greater the desire to do and carry out, to execute the natural function and purpose of the male, which the basic three are to produce, provide, and protect. The female, same. She produces feminine energy. She becomes more desirous of peace of mind, contentment of mind that she delivers to the male and the universe, and she nurtures. The nurturing aspect of her is stronger. She wants to do more of that. She wants to make sure her environment is in harmony. And even though women have that in them, even in this imbalanced state, but connecting to that feminine energy is what allows it to strengthen. The male, if we're connected to the masculine energy and it propels us, it's like rocket fuel, it causes us to protect her and what she is doing and being. We feed, we produce for her, we provide. Because what she is bringing is essential to the advancement of us as an entity. So what has happened though is that things like the alpha male hierarchy, I call it has replaced, and we trying to replace the natural tendency, the innate composite of a male, and replaced it with a construct that people try to follow. To have examples of masculinity is good. That's about anything in the universe, having something, because you just got here, I just got here. So if we have something in front of us to help us understand what's already in us, that's necessary. That's good. When it happens. But if somebody got to teach you to be an alpha male, take the natural tendency of masculinity, then construct it into this thing called alpha, then the alpha must be wrong, incorrect. It's a construct. Because it is connected to the desire, it is connected to the very root of the male system, which is the acquisition of power. It's a myth that we are trying to make real. We're doing everything we can to make it real. We're investing in it to make it real. That's what we're doing. I've carried on a few minutes. I want you to hopefully tune in. I'm starting to put my episodes on YouTube. Hopefully you'll subscribe, please, and hopefully you'll enjoy what I'm giving. And it's like what I'm giving is, it's up for discussion. I love to have these discussions, but I am giving you my perspective on the matter. You can tune in to the recording, the sound. You go to get the video podcast, yes, but Spotify, Apple, Google, where you get podcasts, you can go and get this podcast. And like I said, discussion, cool. I like to have discussions in public forum discussions concerning this. So for this episode 8, we're going to leave it right there for right now, but I'm going to have episode 9, and I want to talk about more about masculinity, more about the hierarchy of masculinities. There's actually a thing. There's like 4 different main masculinities in a hierarchy of masculinity. And man, I want to talk about that and how those things, that hierarchy actually is false. Taking the innate, natural composition and composite of a male masculinity and then breaking it down into a construct, calling it masculinity or masculinities. Doing that, and then how that is destructive not only to the male but the female. Let's talk about it. And I hope to see you on episode 9. And like I said, I'm trying to get better at this. You know, I don't have an intro or outro just yet. I plan to have one soon. Um, so, you know, just, hold on, hold on. It's going to get a little more dazzling, but not too much. So, thank you for joining me. And I appreciate you for listening. And like I said, we can have discussions. You can hit me at masculinemilitia@gmail. You can send me an email there. You can definitely make comments on YouTube and Spotify and all the places that you go to find this podcast. And like I said, as time go on, I'll be able to do that part a little better. So thank you for joining me, and I hope to see you at episode 9.